Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here at the Signal Watch. If you're here for the Elektra podcast, be aware this is part 2 of 2. You can find part 1 already posted. With that, let's get started. Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe, here, in this great hall of the Signal Watch, are the most powerful forces of good ever assembled. Join us as we discuss all manner of topics across the multiverse of comic books, history, creators, storylines, movies, and more. The Signal Watch podcast presents Kryptonian Thought Beast, a comics podcast series dedicated to truth, justice, and peace for all mankind.
All the little pieces falling, shattered, shards of me, too sharp to put back together, too small to matter, but big enough to cut.
Okay, so the Ninja Boardroom. So the guys are all sitting around in suits again.
This
And
was
then
literally when I was like, what the hell is happening with the boardroom? Like, this is apparently what we're going to see out of the hand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, this is the hand. This is, if you want to have a hand scene, this is where it takes place with everyone in suits, somewhere in the world. So back to the boardroom, and everyone's sitting around. And then here's Kirigi, the bad guy. He has 4 other people with him. And I want to discuss kind of the comic book origin of these people, but it's just the thing of like, they're just like walking towards it in slow motion. Like, we're a badasses. We just shouldn't have cool as a thing anymore. And then they come in. All right. 4 characters. Tattoo is an actual character from the comic book, as I understand it.
So I have never seen Tattoo here, but his powers seemed identical to those of the Tattooed Man from DC Comics. So I was very confused. But go on.
I looked all these people up on the Marvel Movies Wiki, which is actually surprisingly informative. I shouldn't say surprisingly, it's great wiki. So Tattoo, as far as I could tell, was from the 90s X-Men. Showed up in like 1993 in Genetics.
Oh, that was exactly when I quit reading X-Men.
When you stopped reading. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's from the dumbest era. All of these people actually are from the dumbest era. So Tattoo, who can like make his tattoos turn into things with amazing results, as we'll see. There's Typhoid.
Who's Typhoid Mary? Yeah.
It's Typhoid Mary from Daredevil. So she's an actual Daredevil character from 1998. But in the comic book, she actually has flame power.
She's just basically she was, I believe, split personality, like crazy person with swords. Like that was my memory of her. Yeah. So
actually, like, so they in the movie, she has poison power, which actually makes more sense. Like Typhoid Mary to have. Oh yeah, they were just using a cool name. Yeah. Yeah. So, but Typhoid's okay. There's a guy named Stone who is invulnerable, sort of, until you drop a tree on him.
Yeah, until he's
suddenly not. Now, as far as I can tell, there are a couple characters named Stone in the Marvel universe, and none of them are this guy. There's a Stone also in there's in like later Elektra. There's Stick. Who's
yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah,
and then there's Stone. So which is also like, I saw that and I'm just like, oh, Daredevil really is so annoying.
Yeah, so
they've got like Stick and Stone.
So there's Stick, Stone, Star. It's like all these. They all have like names, and so you keep calling Daredevil's weapons daggers. Danny, that is not correct. They are Psi.
They're what?
Psi, SAI. And so when Elektra initially goes to join Stick, she doesn't want to be called Elektra. She wants to be called Psi, as they have all taken names of various weapons or something. Yeah. And he won't do it. So
the Stick and Stone are supposed to be like weapon names.
Well, he uses a bow staff, and so
So
he's
annoying.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
This character's name is Stone. You wouldn't know that because I don't think they say his name. They
I
might
knew
say
it from
his name
looking
once.
at IMDb when I was trying to figure out if
Yeah.
that was supposed to be Typhoid
Yeah, me too.
Mary.
So like, right. So for both of us, like the only way we found out, they say Tattoo a lot. So Tattoo, we know who he is. He's actually the one of these four people. He's the one that like we actually understand what his power is, and they say his name. Stone has like one cool scene. Sorry. Later on, but we don't know his name. And then Typhoid is in it a lot. And then there's a guy named Kinku, who's just a guy.
His only real moment is like as they're being introduced, he's walking really weird, like
yeah,
like he's doing this like weird walk with a coin on his fingertip or something.
Yeah,
like that.
We don't really know what his powers are. He dies early. He's the first. So what this is, these are like, here's your 4 plot tokens.
Yeah,
like especially like in Ghost Rider set up. This is just like you've got the bad guy and then you've got the 4 henchmen. It's actually, I didn't realize. Yeah, Ghost Rider actually is the same thing. He had like, or no, he had 3. But like, and so therefore that means that Elektra has to kill them one at a time. And then once you kill all of them, then you get to have the boss fight. So it's video game. So here's the 4 people who are going to be now the villain fights. They come in, Kirigi goes into the board meeting. It is unclear what the purpose of the meeting is, by the way. I kept expecting it, like Kirigi comes in and I expected them to be like, couldn't this meeting be an email? Where you just kill us through email. So he comes into this meeting, which they're constantly having. They need Slack, these people. And he says that you failed to find the treasure. Like the people that you sent out to find the treasure, they're dead, which somehow he knows that they exploded. And he puts down a knife, and the guy who was in charge of this project has to like go and walk around the table and pick up the knife and be like, fuck you. And then turns and like walks out the door and apparently like commits suicide with that.
Yeah. Seppuku,
which is fantastic. So that's a thing that happens. And then Kirigi says like, we can't afford to lose the treasure for another generation. And so this is a fun moment. Master Roshi says, the task is yours. Complete it, and you will have proven yourself worthy of leading this council. And everybody turns like, what? Like it turns to look at him, which is that they're all super surprised, and he's like very satisfied with that moment. And so Kirigi walks out, and before all of the villains leave, Typhoid looks at random guy sitting, the one who's sitting closest to her, and she like takes her fingers and like blows him a little kiss, and it poisons him. And that's how we know what Typhoid does. And he dies. He just like puts his head down on the table, and now he's dead. So, and Roshi, we see Roshi after that does not respond in any way, facially or otherwise. Apparently the hand can lose 2 people during one meeting, and that is perfectly okay.
Yeah. The other thing that blows my mind about this scene and then the subsequent scenes is their commitment to, we need to make these people dress like crazy people. Like they everyone else in that boardroom is in a suit and tie and looks like, you know, they're supposed to be a secret ninja assassin group. And most assassins don't wear a shirt that says assassin across the front of it. And
right. So it's formal Friday for them every day.
So yeah, but Kirigi and his gang are like, we're going to draw the most possible attention to ourselves by constantly dressing completely out of step from all of society.
Oh yeah, like crazy people. Like Kirigi walks around like with a ninja, like white karate guy robe on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Tattoo is like dressed in, he has no shirt and like leather pants.
Same with Stone, because he's a big buff dude. And then in the first scene when she shows up, Typhoid also is basically wearing no shirt.
Oh really?
She was busting out. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Yeah.
And then so I was trying to explain who the characters were because Jamie had been out of the room, and I was referring to her as Boobarella, and that was really disappointing because then she had covered up because I didn't know she was Typhoid yet at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I can't, for some reason, that really bugged me, and I can't really put a finger on it. We've had
That they just walked around like it's a movie and there's no real people outside.
yeah, like Bullseye has the crazy thing on his forehead, but at least he
Yeah.
wears a little cap when he's like in public.
Well, and there's a scene of him, at least one scene of him actually like interacting with civilians in
Yeah.
the world, and they all think that he's weird, and they look at him and they're
Yeah.
scared of him correctly. In this movie, it's possible that there are zero bystanders. I think when she goes to the dock and sees
Yeah.
like the two ninjas get off the ferry, there's some other people around at that point.
And they look weird because everybody
And those
else
people look
looks like
super weird.
actors.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I think it's possible that except for that one scene, there might literally be no extras in this movie. Like there's no humans that we see. Everyone that we see, it's a real stripped down cast, and everyone that we see is a ninja of some kind. So Elektra has decided to take Mark and Abby somewhere. Now, this is like the sixth Marvel movie that we've watched, and I believe in zero of them has the superhero been fighting crime in any way.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider catches a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Daredevil murders a guy with a subway train. Elektra does nothing useful. She's apparently part of this eternal war between good and evil, but like, don't superheroes fight crime? Like, that's what he's doing in Spider-Man.
So, yeah, I mean, I think this one's to me is slightly different. Like, and this is coming off of mostly just Daredevil comics and Elektra Assassin.
Yeah.
Elektra was never a air quote good guy. She was whatever she needed to be in the moment, and to me, like they went too far with that concept of her not living. But I agree. I think that this is a fundamental problem that movies have had, kind of translating superheroes to the big screen, and frankly, comics have had for 25 years. Is they have kind of forgotten that
they're real people.
They're real people. That the thing that makes superheroes interesting is they are a unique thing within their world. Right. And that's why I think like when you do a Superman story, you need to put him in the Daily Planet because those are all
with civilians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with civilians that he's supposed to protect.
And like he shouldn't be dating Wonder Woman because he should be with a human woman.
The interesting thing.
That's the interesting thing. And so I think that movie, this is when it really bugged me with the costumes of like, this thing is just unmoored from reality in any way, shape, or form. To the point of it feels like Rocksteady and Bebop, like talking to Shredder at this point, like which is fine if you're doing a kids movie, but this is not a kids movie. This is a teenager's movie.
Oh, wait, is it Shredder and not Splinter? Have I been calling it Splinter this whole
No, Shredder is the bad guy with the bucket.
Oh, okay, all right, but it is Splinter is the bad. Okay, thank you so much. I thought that I was going to lose all 90s cred completely. That scared me. But yeah, no, it's basically right. It's at this point, especially with Typhoid, like kind of blowing this kiss and killing the dude, that it basically is telling us like the rest of this movie is about wizards. It's like including Elektra, who has supernatural powers. Like this is about ninja wizards for the whole rest of the time. So we're in a city. All of a sudden, we're off the island.
Oh yeah, so there are extras here because we go to the pool hall.
Oh, the pool hall, right? This is the other scene with actually. There's like, oh my god, there's a non-wizard guy who has a little bit of dialogue. They go to this pool hall in City X.
Mm-hmm.
How far away is this from it? It doesn't matter, right? It's this thing that you said, like they're in a new location, and Elektra is driving them around in a bright orange Ford pickup truck.
It's got to be an F-250. It's gigantic.
It's an it's so funny you say that. It's an F-350.
Is it? Yeah.
I went. So like, I'm not a car person at all. I promise. But I looked at the Internet Movie Cars database, which I love. I learned about it from like watching Superman 2 and wanting to know where all the cars were from. I'm just going to do an ad for them. Internet Movie Car Database is unbelievably great and actually like screenshots every car in every movie and says exactly what model and make it is. So anyway, that's why I'm telling you I know nothing about cars. So that's why I'm telling you you're being a car guy. And
I'm not a car guy, but I live in Texas. And
yeah, so it is not a Ford F-250, it's an F-350, and it's bright orange.
Yeah. And if you're not familiar with an F-350, it's a size of like a Humvee. It's like a Sherman tank driving
It's a
around.
big ass pickup truck.
Yeah.
But with like two seats, right? There's like
Yeah.
There's
It's
a passenger
like a
seat.
crew cab. Yeah.
Yeah, with a pickup truck. Very visible vehicle for the assassins who are hiding from people to be driving. They go up to this enormous dark pool hall. I don't even know how to talk about what happens then, because you understand my difficulty, right, of describing this, that like a guy is playing pool and
they never say he's blind.
His face is shaded.
Mm-hmm.
This is Stick. So you're going to find out in a minute that this is Stick.
Yeah.
Which you know automatically because it's the guy who played General Zod and he has a very distinctive voice. So he's playing pool with some newbie, an actual human civilian, maybe the one in the entire movie. And he describes this like really complicated pool shot. Like, I'm going to hit like the 8, the 3, the 1, and then do a bank off something. And the guy's like, okay, whatever. And then he makes that shot, like exactly what he said, of like 6 shots. And then the guy's like, so much for being blind. And then you see his face and it turns out it's Stick, who we've only seen like in the dojo. Suddenly he's just randomly hanging out in this pool hall where Elektra randomly understands where he is.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that.
Why is he in America?
Why does he know? How does she know? Yeah.
How does she know? Like that actually I can get, just because like somewhere off screen, she does her annoying thing of like being still and therefore she knows whatever information. Yeah. Why is he there? What is the point of that? And once again, like, so this is a place where they actually say that he's blind, but he can do pool shots by smell that are like unbelievably great, complicated, perfect pool shots. There is no difference between him and a sighted person.
Oh, he's better than, yeah. I mean, he'd be super sighted with an amazing sense of geometry, but he, I think what they were trying to do is in the comics, Stick is like really earthy. Yeah. Like, and I think that was their attempt to communicate that, but instead it just makes no sense any more than him wearing a goofy little hat in the final scene.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So Daredevil really bothers me because the blind thing, because like, there's really no reason for him to be blind. And it just creates a lot of like extra explanation every time he does something to say like, oh, well, I heard there's a lot of like, I heard that person doing that, and then that sound bounced off of that, and that's why I know how to do this. Like, let's just have sight. But like being able to distinguish the color of pool balls while being blind is fantastic. All right, so now this like perfect karate master of the Karamuji is a pool hustler. Like, and he says like he wins the game, and he says to the guy, "Leave the money on the table."
Yeah.
How is that connected to anything we know about that character?
Well, again, I think if you're that's the thing, is I feel like there's a lot of stuff in this movie that like, if you're familiar with the comics, you'd be like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Yeah. But if you're not, it just feels insane because they don't ever get into who these people are or what the deal is.
This is actually another example for me of why we just shouldn't have the concept of cool anymore, because like they just had this guy who's already cool because he's a perfect ninja master. And they decide to give him something else that's cool. This is number 2 out of 3 cool things that he's going to be in the movie. And so the second cool thing is a pool hustler, like Tom Cruise and whatever the Tom Cruise pool hustler
Color Money
movie was.
It's in the way that you do it. Yeah.
We don't. And does the color of money involve a blind person, or is that the smell of something? Anyway.
That's Scent of a Woman. It's very different movies.
All right. In my head, those are the same. So it's just like we just need another cool thing, and so here it is. It's pool hustling. They send Abby away to play pinball, and
give her $1, which I'm not sure how she's supposed to put $1 into a pinball machine, but yeah, well, that's
yeah. So they have then the adult conversation, which is so taxing, because like she talks to Stick, And Stick says, like, did you ask them why the hand is after them? Which is a really good point. Like, apparently they've been now hanging out together, like rented the truck and everything. And she has not asked them what's happening in their lives, that like, why are you assassination targets? But she says they didn't know. And then dumbass Mark is standing there being like, well, I do know. And Electra like turns slowly to face him with no facial expression. You lied to me. And he says, well, they killed my wife. And now she's mad at him. And she's like, you're on your own, which lasts for less than a scene. Yeah. This happens like 3 times in the movie, and this is not the worst one, where like all of a sudden, like Mark and Abby turn out to be somebody completely different. So, all right. So now she knows like they have to escape. Stick doesn't help at all. They have to run. And so she's going to leave Mark and Abby behind. So she says like, you got to run, like go to South Africa, go to South America, go to Africa, like change your name, change your appearance, start running. And then they're out in the parking lot and she sees this graffiti crow kind of turn and pop out of the wall. And she sees that and she's like, oh, I got to get them out of here. And so she bundles them into the bright orange pickup truck. Change your name, change your appearance. Go to South America. But I'm going to drive you in the most visible vehicle.
Yeah. You need a gray Altima. You need to disappear.
Yeah. It might as well be like the Electric Mayhem bus from the Muppet movie, of just like the most visible possible car that I'm driving you around in, and we're hiding from these people. So the graffiti. Ryan, would you like to explain the graffiti and what it does?
Earlier,
and where they are
when they introduced tattoo, they have this lingering shot you have to really be looking at, because everything in this movie is dark as hell.
Yeah.
Where you see the bird on his tattoo kind of wink. And so it does happen within proximate chronological distance to where now you see this big graffiti bird on a wall, and the graffiti bird turns its head on the wall. And you go, oh, I guess it's something to do with that guy. And then the graffiti bird.
So I don't know what this, I don't know. This is some kind of raptor. I don't know what kind of bird it is. And unfortunately, there's not like an internet movie birds database that I could look it up.
It's whatever bird they needed to be that shot.
Hawk, osprey.
It's an egret.
I should stop naming birds, because that's probably an osprey is probably like not even a raptor. It's some kind of mean raptor. That if a raptor, if that's a word, if that's an actual word, that means anything. Yeah, I like it. And so then it pulls off of the wall. It has now spotted them. It pulls off the wall. It flies, and it finds Tattoo, who is standing on top of a building 3 blocks away, and it merges with his chest, and now is part of him. And now it's a tattoo on his chest.
And now he knows where they are. Even though in other scenes he knows what's going on all the time from his tattoos he's put out there. But in this one, he has to have the bird come back to him so he can tell people.
Right, yes. But also, like, but then you know where they are. And he just lets them drive away. He lets them drive away and have a little road trip. So they have a little road trip.
Yeah, that's very McCabe's, right?
Yeah. And so they drive this highly visible vehicle. They show up at a big house, which is McCabe's house, and they park on the front lawn, which also is amazing to me. Like, these people, you're not good at anything you're doing. McCabe so that's her agent, if you don't recall. I didn't. Actually, the first time I was like, who the hell is that? And it took until the second watch where I was like, oh, that's the agent. It's just, as far as I was concerned, she just showed up at some random dude's house. But he is apparently running an Airbnb for crazy people. Now, what we know about the world and the story right now is that bad things happen when you stay in confined spaces. There are ninjas with magic powers after you. Why are you going to sit aimlessly in another glass box? Like they just walk into the house and then they hang around in the kitchen. It's like, no, find a defensible position that has sight lines and pinch points. Like,
Well,
don't
I
just sit in
also
the
wasn't
kitchen.
clear on why McKay wasn't like, you need to go. You
He
can't-
does.
Well, he
He
does.
says
He
that.
tells
It
the
doesn't
girl
work.
like, go eat whatever you
I
want
know,
to eat.
yeah,
in the
then he
house
tells
or
her-
whatever. And I was like,
yeah.
I'd be like, I have a gun, and you
Go
need
inside.
to leave because you're going to draw magical assassins to my home,
I
and I
know
would
about.
prefer to continue breathing.
Yeah.
Like I
He says,
imagine
like,
in
go inside, help yourself to anything in the fridge, basically.
yeah, and in the assassin game, my guess is one, you don't want anyone to know where you live. Two, you
Don't live
if they
anywhere.
do show up in a huff, you're like, you cannot be here, and I will murder you and bury
I mean,
you.
don't own a home.
Well, yeah.
Don't have a home address.
It was absolutely. I mean, I think in some other movie there probably would have been like a sojourn at this country farmhouse, and I assume at some draft in the script that happened. But here they're there for like 5 minutes before the shit hits the fan. They
Sit
got
around.
absolutely no lead on what they were doing.
If I understand it correctly, I think Electra takes 2 different naps in the house
Does
at
she?
different times. It's
I blurred
there's
out
at least
this
one.
part of the movie.
There's at least
Okay.
one. I should look it up. There's at least one. I believe it might be even 2 that she takes 2 naps. She has like this bonding scene with Abby where Abby changes her hair color
Oh
to
right.
be the same as Electra's, and Electra thinks it's her own self as a little girl and whatever. So this whole thing of Abby, this is one of the most annoying scenes where Abby says like, I want to be like you, and Electra tries to get her to sit quietly. She actually what she says, like she says, I'm going to teach you something important, and then basically plays the quiet game, which is what you do with children during a road trip. Like, I just need you to shut up for 2 seconds. And Abby doesn't win. Like, she keeps like making faces and like making noises. She's
But
so
that
annoying.
sequence was not on the cutting
It's
room
the worst.
floor is absolutely baffling. It makes both of them look bad as characters.
Terrible. Oh my god. It's the
It
worst.
advances nothing.
Well, it's supposed to be like, so then like, we're trying to, teach her how to sit still for 2 seconds, which does not happen. And then Electra goes, bah! And she jumps, and now they've bonded. So now that's a thing. And then there's a Mark and Electra scene, once again, on a porch. With bad people looking for you. What are you doing? Standing on the porch. He tells her he lied about something else. He lied about the wife. His wife wasn't killed in a car accident. She was actually murdered by the hand. And then he kisses her.
Yeah.
And then he kisses her. And she's okay with it. And then he kind of pulls back and he says, I'm sorry. And she says, yeah, I hated that. But like in a way that was like she's kidding. Like she liked it. And then she just walks back into the house.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave her right there because that's what the movie does. It just leaves her right there.
Yeah. I mean, it all feels like stuff that, like I said, this movie's cobbled together from other movies. And it feels like those scenes might have occurred in other movies, but with a lot more motivation and something to build towards them. And this movie's just kind of assuming we got to do some sort of romance for her.
Right.
So, she's a sexual being of some kind.
We have a guy. There has to
Yeah.
be a love story in here somewhere, but
Yeah.
it is absolutely the most like perfunctory love story that would be possible to have. It's just we put him near her and she saves his life a lot, and he kisses her once and she's like, huh, and walks away.
Yeah.
And that's basically the entire love story until the very end of the movie.
Is this when the ninjas all show up? I know that there's probably
And then the
some
ninjas
dream
all show up.
sequences and shit of her.
Yeah,
more-
no, because she takes a nap and has more
Yeah.
dream sequence. You know what I think we're saying? Basically, I believe we're getting up to the 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
For this podcast, I think what we're saying is it's not a very good movie.
I mean, yeah, it so you get into the sequence now where they're being chased through the woods, and but
oh, wait,
but
actually, no. I have things to say before the woods.
okay, go
I have
for it.
things-
I thought
I
they
have
literally went right to the woods here.
No, I have so much to say. I mean, first up, like they go, they're here.
Oh right,
Which means like now we're going to execute the plan that obviously we made in the last several hours that we were hanging around the house. No, did not discuss it at all, apparently.
Mhm.
But McCabe shouts, like, go through this trap door. It takes you out to the woods. Okay. So Electra takes them through the trap door, and McCabe is like, he's going to stand his ground. He's going to keep them safe.
Suddenly he's a hero.
Yeah, he's going to sacrifice himself. And Electra's like, wait, you're going to stay? He's like, yes, I am. And they look at each other. And it's like, oh, wow, you're going to self. That's amazing. And so Kirigi, like, gets him on his knees and is going to kill him. And it's just like, McCabe, why are you even prioritizing the lives of these terrible people? Like, everyone who meets them apparently just like is ready to die for this terrible girl. So Kirigi has McCabe like kneeling on the floor, and McCabe is being a dick to him. And then Kirigi swings his sword, and we see in silhouette. Did you clock this? Because this is amazing. Swings his sword and cuts McCabe's head off, like just with one swing, like, whoosh, and his head pops off in silhouette, right in front of the camera. And it's a mannequin. It's obviously a mannequin. It's not even wet. It's just like, you get in silhouette, he just like cuts and it goes pop.
Well, that's how you keep it PG-13, right? Yeah.
Right, then don't do that. Like, I get it if you are trying to say, like, the whole thing is impossible. Like, if you're trying to say that's the sharpest sword ever made, and I'm the most powerful swordsman in world history, where I can do like and go through your spine and neck and everything, like, make it wet at least.
Well,
it is so obviously a mannequin.
I will tell you what I think happened, and I'm totally making this up.
Yeah.
When I saw that shot, because I've seen that shot in a lot of movies, and the first time, I'm sure it occurred before this, but in the Conan the Barbarian movie, that is how his mother is killed. Her
mannequin death.
Yeah, one of the guys who's with James Earl Jones, Tulsa Doom. I can't remember if Tulsa cuts off her head or one of his minions, but someone basically. And so it's a really good shot to do. It's a fun shot to do. And it's you basically just have someone's body, and then you just you show someone swinging a sword. And this is actually, we talked earlier about the swing sound.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So this is all this. So when the reason I made that sound was when I was making a student film, I was doing a thing of the Jabberwocky where he cuts off its head and goes lumping back. So we did a thing of like, what if these were people? Sort of. It was stupid. It was a 2-minute thing, but I wanted to do these different tricks, and one of them was I wanted to dump a head in front of a body to do that shot, because my whole class would be like, "Ooh!"
Right.
And indeed it did. And I think that was kind of them doing the same sort of thing of, they're going to show he's the super assassin, and he can, with a single swipe of his blade, do this. I mean, we're talking wizards at this point.
But you can't do in silhouette with one shot. He swings the blade, and then the head goes pop, like in front of your eyes, just like pops off the body like an action figure. It's amazing. That's a great scene.
Yeah.
So now they're running through the woods. They have magical people after them. So I have another point to make about this.
I also want to point out they're in the same clothes they were in at Hand headquarters. And I don't know if that means they were on a 12-hour flight
the villains?
over there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, where was this? Yeah, there's no sense of where anything is at all.
And so they haven't changed clothes except for Typhoid. I mean,
you're assuming that boardroom is in Japan, which is not necessarily.
I am not. After our conversation, I assume nothing. I think everything's around the greater Seattle area. I just don't. They look ridiculous. It's one thing when you see like Rocksteady and Bebop bursting through a door in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. It's another thing where everyone's basically wearing like Nikes and like Levi's, and then someone bursts through the door and they're in like a full ninja suit in the middle
dressed
of like
a super
field.
Suit.
Yeah. And you're just kind of like, he doesn't need to be wearing that. Like it makes way more sense for him to right now
not
be wearing like anything but this. So I don't really get why they adhered so hard to the ninja lifestyle in this, but
to never change their clothes or take a shower.
Yeah.
People just appear in this movie. Like, people just pop around and they just appear.
Yeah.
Okay, so my issue is this: you live in a world that has ninja wizards in it, and you have not taken that into account in your planning. Like me personally, in the real world, I live in a world that has lung cancer and pickpockets and people who want to sell me cryptocurrency. And I have evaluated those threats and I have made choices based on that evaluation. You live in a world that has spellcasting psychopaths and you have taken no precautions in response. It's just a surprise when it shows up. And you had literally hours to prepare.
And they do seem to have this thing where if they just think real hard about it, they know where everybody is. So it's like, why even
Yeah,
run?
exactly.
At some point, just get to the most, you find the high ground, Anakin, you know?
Well, it's like, you know what? Like, I just realized this. They are less prepared for a home invasion than Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. They do not set up like a little trap where like a paint bucket comes and falls on them.
Somebody dug that tunnel, and I would like to know who.
Yes, Macaulay Culkin was there. That was his one piece of advice. Yeah, so they're definitely less. They are less capable than Macaulay Culkin. So they're chasing her through the woods, and so now they get to collect a couple plot tokens by killing these dudes. So Stone, it's a whole complicated thing, but like she ends up dropping a tree onto Stone and he evaporates into green powder. And then there's the random guy who we don't know who he is or what his power is. And this is one of the worst moments in the movie. He grabs Abby from behind a tree or whatever, and he's holding a knife to her neck. And then she takes that fucking bracelet of warrior beads from some culture, and she takes it. This is her weapon. And she takes it and she like wraps it around the guy's throat and then flips him. She actually just uses the power of a little gold chain to take a guy who's standing behind her and flip him through the air.
Yeah, physics.
Around his
Physics.
throat.
This is when they officially go out the window in this movie, even more so than the
Yeah.
tattoos flying around.
So she flips the guy with the little chain, and then Mark just takes a knife out of his pockets, which he's been carrying. He throws it at the guy. It immediately kills him. And then there's like a wolf monster that's coming thanks to tattoo, and Abby like swipes at the wolf monster, and it explodes too.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, these two, up until now, entirely useless people have unbelievably effective magic powers. And we find out at this moment that all the times before, they were just pretending to be helpless.
I could not figure out, based on this scene, if Mark was supposed to also be a ninja wizard or not.
There's no other scene that indicates this, but he does kill the guy just by throwing a knife at him.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Mark's also, and he was training Abby at some point when they found out when she was 4 or 5,
right?
Which is how they put it, that she was a super ninja, and it doesn't make any
guy. He's just like he's like the dad in a like, you know what he is if this was a movie where Jennifer Garner was a middle school teacher and Abby was like the authority defying obnoxious girl, but she's really smart. And like, and Jennifer Garner was like helping her like understand like how do we achieve things. And like Mark would be that kid's dad.
Yeah.
And then she would kind of very gradually fall in love with him. So he's like the nerd, like suburban dad who's the father of this. Yeah.
1000%.
Yes, that would be what they're going for here. But here he doesn't just kill a dude. He kills one of the 4 like
most
scary,
deadly people
in the world. Yeah, so he just throws a knife, and that's the only time we see that. And so Elektra says, like, why didn't you tell me that? And there is no answer to that question. Why didn't they tell her that? Don't know. We saved it
because it wasn't at that point in the plot yet. Yeah.
So now they've just completely changed who these people are. So then there comes Typhoid, who grabs Elektra and kisses her and poisons her for a long time. And like black leaves pour down, which I didn't get until I watched the second time, of like, oh, Typhoid like poisons the plants around them. And so that's the tree like dropping black dead leaves. Ryan, do you know what happened with this particular kiss scene?
I'm not exactly sure what you mean, but
this was nominated for Best Kiss at the 2005 MTV Movie Awards.
No, that sounds about right for the MTV Movie Awards.
That's why it's so weird, because it's a woman, it's a pretty girl kissing another pretty girl and killing her through her tongue, and that's why that is in the movie. And it was successful.
I knew fully why that scene was in the movie.
It was successful at doing that because nobody watched Elektra. Like, it was like 103 for the year. Nobody went to it, but that scene was nominated for MTV Movie Award. It did not win, by the way, in case you're wondering. It was Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams in The Notebook that actually won.
Huh. Okay.
And now you know. I don't come to these episodes unprepared. I'm a journalist.
It was an interesting period of media. I recently on our Smallville rewatch, there's also a Lana joins a sorority, and of course there's a girl, and it's the Katy Perry I Kissed a Girl. Yeah, it's
like the one kind of singular girl on girl kiss that's there to titillate dudes. But like, you don't actually make that character a lesbian.
Mm-mm.
It's just like the one kiss. And so that's what there is. And there's no reason. Okay. Anyway, so that's what happens. So Abby's like swinging her beads around and she's not successful. And Kirigi says, the war is, so here's, finally the number one bad guy is there. And he's like, the war is over. And then they look up and the sky is alive with little ninjas. Like flipping around. They look out. You see that as like the tree cover. There they go. And then there's ropes. And descending from ropes from the treetops is all of these ninjas and Stick wearing. You said something about the hat before. Can you explain that? He's wearing but it's like an army hat. It's like a little like I'm the general showing up. It's like a general camo hat.
I think that hat is a remnant of a drawing of Stick by like John Romita Jr. You know how John Romita Jr. always draws hats looking kind of roughly the same? I think that is where it came from. And Stick, I think in the comics wore a hat somewhat like that, but all the time. It wasn't like, because he was wearing street clothes. He wasn't a guy wearing like ninja togs. And to your point, everyone else is dressed as a ninja. He's wearing like camos.
Yeah.
Like he's in the military. Like everyone else went to costuming and he was like, I'm not putting on a ninja outfit. And they're like,
okay, what do we give you?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. You're totally right. Yeah, that actor probably refused because he knew how silly it would look to appear like in a ninja costume. So they were like, cool, well, we'll just make you like the general of something. And they come down from the sky like it's from a helicopter.
They're crouching tigering across the tops of the trees.
What is happening?
Yeah.
Why is this happening right now? And so Stick comes down and saves them, and the bad guys, the surviving bad guys, disappear.
Which, if you have an army of ninjas, you're beck and call. Why is any of this happening?
That's true.
And then they have to Themyscira her. They have to whisk Abby away.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, that's such a good point. Yeah. That they take. So the next thing we see, they're in Japan ? Again, which is like they're in the place where Elektra tried to learn the way of the Kamigiri. And now she's with Stick, and we're at the dojo. I don't know if dojo is the correct word for this, but I'm going to use it. Like Raptor. And Abby is fighting, and she's using her little chain, and she is like the most powerful killer ninja. She's just like tearing through people, which is 100% not the character that she was playing up until this moment. They decide 2/3 of the way through this. So this is now the third act. They decide 2/3 of the way through the movie to completely change everything that we know about this annoying character. She has different motivation. She has different backstory. Like her responses to everything is different, except later on when she's in danger and she does another like, oh, I'm just helpless girl, Abby.
My favorite line to this was, now you get the backstory of like, oh, you found out Stick was actually the one. And this is where I was like, wait a minute, this movie doesn't make any sense. Because earlier in so Stick specifically, she says, oh, with no evidence, you're the one who sent me to go kill these two, and I'm mad at you about it. And he's like, let me give you the backstory. Here's the exposition dump.
You were behind everything, Stick. It's God, what is it like? It's just like pretending that it's basically just like turning to him and saying like, they treat it like it's the usual suspects. They treat it like, once you find out this thing about somebody, then like everything else in the movie makes sense. So it's like, oh, Stick, it was you the whole time. You were manipulating me.
Except that somehow, and then maybe that scene didn't exist, but we knew that because she had failed at murdering Abby and her dad, that they were sending more people. And it's why oh my God, I didn't even think of that. And that's when we started talking about it. I was like, none of this makes any sense when you find out that Stick was behind it. Those are two different organizations.
You're right. That was the hand.
McCabe? Like,
that was the hand is the one that like you kill me and then you do something worse. And they send those two ninjas. Oh my God. I knew that it was weird.
Yeah.
It did not occur to me how weird it was. Oh, that totally does not.
And then Stick, instead of saying like, here's specifically what happened, he goes, when she was in 4 or 5, this happened. It's like,
right. She turned out.
You sound like you're the person pitching a story for the background of this girl at this point. This doesn't sound like actually.
Yeah, he's like the Abby is the treasure. So you're gonna hear the phrase "the treasure" a lot in the next few minutes. Yeah. She's the treasure at 4 or 5, and they killed her mom, and then she started running, and that's why she was with Mark running around, and the hand was after her. But you're right. But then Stick is the one who's supposed to send Elektra after her and the ninjas that followed. Mm-hmm. But they turned into green powder because they were from the hand. Oh, you're right. It totally doesn't make sense. And then he said, and she says, like, why did you manipulate me? And he says, some lessons can't be taught, Elektra. They must be lived to be understood. Except this lesson is unbelievably easy to teach. The lesson was protect children from violent mutant ninja wizards, which is not a hard concept for somebody to grasp.
No,
it bothers me.
This
bothers me.
It's
there's a lot of the third act.
It's exhausting thinking about all this stuff again.
There is so much. There is going to be so much sighing. We're now in the last third.
Yeah.
Okay, the next scene that you sigh at. Now Abby's a ninja and still hanging out in like Elektra's room, and so Elektra and Abby get together, and Abby thinks now that she can challenge like she's as good as Elektra. So the girl who has been like needs to get saved through the entire movie. Now she's like, oh, I can fight you. And so they fight, and she actually gets some like decent hits. And then Elektra wins, like ends up like grabbing her by the throat, and now Elektra wins. And Abby suddenly starts to cry because she's not as good as
not the world's best.
She's not the world's best assassin. And she was the one who was saying like, I want to be like you, and they're treating it like it's this mother-daughter thing, but now she can't kill Elektra, and it makes her cry. And it's like a whole scene that's like specifically about. It's like, what is this movie about? What is it about?
They try and do a lot of parallels between her and
Elektra.
And there's a lot of stuff that we haven't even talked about like Elektra's father, like mentally abusing her, which, like you need to be the best and you need to be able to push yourself, which not seen at all in the first film.
No.
Lifted very lightly from stuff from the comics of other people. There's a lot of abuse of Elektra in the comics, of all flavors. But she, so I think that's where that's coming from. And they're trying to do this parallel of her wanting to be the best the same way, except there's no driving force behind it other than
her father doesn't treat her
her
that way.
dad's totally cool.
Yeah.
Her dad's like, go swear. I don't care what you break into people's houses. Oh, you scam.
Go be a ninja. Go be
shit.
like the single most powerful ninja warrior in the world who's going to tip the balance between good and evil.
Yeah.
This is the moment, by the way. This is the moment where the balance between good and evil becomes a very slippery concept. So that's what the treasure. So she is the treasure. Just to make it absolutely clear for people, it was not really that clear in the movie. She is the treasure. The treasure is the thing that they talked about in the proverb at the very beginning of the movie, where they said that she was going to tip the balance between good and evil.
So the opening leads you to believe the treasure is, of course, Elektra.
Is Elektra, right? And it turns out no,
it's pretty much figured out the treasure was Abby. Before they were assassinated, I'm going
to embarrass myself and say that I did not realize, like, until she started like flipping chains around in the woods. Like, they did get me on that, but I actually don't feel embarrassed about it because it's such a stupid plot point that, like,
it totally came from like, they're going to play hide the ball with this a little bit because they think they're those screenwriters.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
But she's the treasure, but she's also just this random girl who does nothing. So anyway, Elektra decides to sneak away and leave Abby and Mark at the dojo for some reason I don't know. And then there is actually the most baffling shot in the entire movie, and I wonder if you notice this. There is a magical yellow and black spider.
Yes.
We see Elektra leave because she's leaving these people at the dojo. We see Abby in her bed. Underneath the bed, this yellow and black spider kind of comes down under the bed. It lands on the floor and it dissolves.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a CGI thing where it just dissolves and turns into fluid, and the fluid kind of like falls. It flows down through the floorboards. My question to you, Ryan, what was that?
That's tattoo. He sent a little spy spider from a tattoo.
Oh.
It has to have been that. There's nothing else it could have been.
But why?
Because I don't think they knew where the good guy HQ was.
So then
they're doing reconnaissance so they can sneak in, I guess. And
thank you. Okay, that does actually. I'm embarrassed that I didn't realize that, but I'm glad that you just healed like a hole in my heart, because I did not know what that was referring to, and it was just like this David Lynch Twin Peaks of like. Yeah, it was this bizarre thing that like is not connected to anything.
It was an animal that dissolved into something. So I was like, oh,
you're
it's
right.
You're right. Tattoo.
Right.
So
all right. I retract my bafflingness, but it's still a terrible scene. So Elektra walks somewhere. She mind talks with Kurigi, and they set up a final battle. And Kurigi is like just the most cliched villain ever.
His dialogue is amazing.
So terrible. She's just like,
so we will meet again.
We will meet where it all began.
Yeah,
is the thing. And she's like, if I win, then, or he says like, if I win, then the treasure is mine. And she says, well, if I win, then she can go free. And he's like, well, then let's the games begin or something. Like, it's just so pathetic. But that sets up the final thing. So then there's like a 15-minute final battle. So here's the exciting thing. This is so bizarre. There are 4 scenes in this final battle that I would actually recommend that people watch the movie just to see.
Go for it.
There's crazy, crazy stuff. So I'm gonna explain why. Where it all began is her old mansion where she lived like a rich person.
Must be in Seattle, we are assuming, or Canada.
Apparently in Canada. Huge, completely deserted mansion with furniture in it. Like, it's apparently all right. So she goes, there's like this big parlor ballroom, and there's a ton of furniture that has sheets over them because it's an abandoned mansion, which is the thing that I do not think occurs in nature at all. And it's dark. And so we see all of these ninjas arrive, like climbing up, like flippity flip. Like, here they go climbing up the walls. This is sequence number 1 of my 4 amazing sequences. she's like kneeling in the parlor and she's being very still. So she knows that the ninjas are coming, and she gets up with great purpose. As she walks, she takes off her robe. She's got like this robe on and reveals that she's in this bright red lingerie outfit, which is Elektra's real costume. It is not necessary that she shows as much skin as she shows, but that is what's happening. But that's not my problem. Like, it is a problem, but it's not my problem. While she's walking, she reaches over to a lit candelabra for some reason, which is to her left. With her left hand, she grabs a candle as she walks by. And then then we see the ninjas, and like, here are the ninjas still coming, like sneaky sneak. She grabs this candle, she sachets out, more ninjas climbing up the wall. She goes to the kitchen, which is in a tower, we find out. She goes to this big dark kitchen, and there's a huge stove. And she turns on, so there's like 4 gas burners. So she turns on the 4 gas burners. She walks to the door, like very casually. And then she stands there at the door and waits. And then like, here come like 5 ninjas breaking through the windows there all at the same time. And she's standing there in her lingerie, and she smiles, and she kind of like tosses the candle at them. And the gas from the burners explodes into flame, like huge, like furnace flame that instantly kills them all. And then there's a shot where we are outside of this tower, and like there's these huge blasts of flame that come out of the windows. And then we're back like even another step, and there's even more like blasts of flame coming from this stove. And then we're out on the lawn. This is like the 4th one. We're out on the lawn, and we're looking at the house, and like there's a mushroom cloud that comes up. Like, this was the biggest.
It's one of those big gasoline fire balloons.
It's like the biggest explosion ever. Like, the next shot would have been like from space, and you see the Earth, and there's like the.
Like, then we would have known where the movie occurred. They couldn't do that.
It is that much flame. And so you're watching it, and you're just like, I don't think, like, she tosses the candle, you're like, I don't think it works that way. And then like, it definitely does not work that way.
Oh yeah, because she has thrown the candle at them, the gas blows up going that direction.
Yeah. Right.
Instead
and then
of like a room, room filled with gas, which would explode in all directions. It blows up only going that way, and she can stand in the doorway smirking.
Yeah.
And
with that, it's not like there's a lot of crazy movie stuff that they can get away with because individual people in the audience don't necessarily have the experience of like I know it's true that like probably a car doesn't explode just because it runs into something, but they can do that because people don't necessarily know that much about cars. Every single person in the audience has some experience with like the gas from a burner being on for too long, and you light a match and it goes, right. And you go, ah, like everyone who's ever like had a gas burner.
I do it about once a week. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And so like turning on the 4 gas burners and then 20 seconds later, just tossing a candle into it creates an explosion. Mm. It's so amazing.
As if the house had been filling with gas for a week. Yes.
Or this was some kind of like storehouse of
propellants.
Insane movie propellant. Okay. So that's one thing. So that's the one sequence which I wish people would go and watch because it's amazing. Then they have the linen fight, which you referred to earlier.
Yeah.
Which
made me dizzy.
God damn bizarre. She walks back. So like in this parlor, drawing room, ballroom room, there's all the furniture, and the furniture have sheets over them because it's an abandoned place. And she walks in, and suddenly there's like wind, and the sheets just leap up into the air and fly around the room in a way that sheets do not do. And it goes on for 3 full minutes. Like there's just like this endless whirlwind of linens, and it doesn't make it look good or interesting. Like, I don't understand what they thought they were achieving with this effect.
So the only thing the reason it is happening is Kurigi is using his discussed linen powers. And it explains
the powers. You know what it is when they say Bed Bath and Beyond. This is the Beyond.
This is the Beyond.
That's what they've been talking about this whole time.
And no shit, the reason he is dressed in this flowy white outfit the whole time is so he can mix in with the sheets that are flying all over the place. And it is the dumbest fucking thing. And it's so confusing to watch because they cut it. It's just nonsensical cutting. So you're supposed to be getting her POV. And instead you're like, my brain just shut off because none of this makes any sense. I'll wait. My brain will kick in again when this is over.
It's terrible. And she's like cutting. And so she's trying to like cut and cut and cut. But like all she's doing is like cutting a sheet. But like the more that she cuts the sheet, like they don't fall. They just keep like swirling around. There's just endless. There's no way. And then Karigi's there. And finally, after like literally 3 minutes, I counted, he's there and he grabs Elektra from behind and he's holding a knife to her neck. And then there's Abby standing there saying, let her go. And she's got her little chain, her little gold chain. She's flipping around, flippity flip. And she has a little fight with Karigi with the chain. And she manages to like cut him on the cheek, which is hugely surprising. Okay, so this is sequence number 2.
I just also want to say about this.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you're an assassin and you have the ability to move linens around, the number one thing you're going to do with it is pin somebody
wrap
their head. Yeah. And then you will stab them to death. Like this isn't math. This isn't hard math.
Yeah.
But that's not what this Karigi chooses to do. He's also super fast, like one of the vampires in
what's that ninja style. Like all of a sudden I'm over here thing, which they do throughout the movie. Okay, but then so like Abby's there with her little chain, and Elektra gets up and she starts running. And so this is a stunt that makes so little logical sense that this is number 2 out of 4 for why people should watch this movie, because I'm not going to be able to explain it correctly. But Elektra starts running up the stairs.
Yes.
And she reaches out her left hand. And Abby, who's standing kind of next to the staircase, like throws her little gold chain, and Elektra catches it with her left hand, keeps running, and with one hand pulls Abby up off the ground. And Abby lands. Oh, she gets like over the railing and lands on the stairs. And now they're both running.
In addition to this, they have many times previously shown this chain cuts people.
Yes.
So Elektra's fingers should have all been on the stairwell.
That's what it does.
And Abby's fingers similarly should have been on the stairwell or on the floor. Doesn't matter. It is, it's just one of those sequences where you watch and you just yell physics as it's happening.
Like no matter what, even if they were standing still and Abby and Elektra's on the stairs and has a chain that Abby is holding, there's no way physically for her to pick up the weight of an entire young human being to get her over the railing, and doing it while she's running. Mm-hmm. Like and she doesn't break a step. It's just like she runs and then grabs it and then she just sails. Okay. It's amazing. We can't explain it. I'm sorry that I keep trying. We cannot explain it.
I'm visualizing it that you've described it accurately.
It's goddamn crazy. And so now they're both, so that's number 2. Now they're both running. And Elektra says, like, you're a pain in the ass. And Abby says, just like you. And it's like, yeah, that's why I don't like either of you. You're so annoying. And so then they go 1, 2, 3, and they crash through the window together and they land on the ground. There's still 20 minutes left in this movie, just so folks know. All right, so then here's sequence number 3, which is unbelievably amazing, which is the snakes. I'm just going to say that and let Ryan, okay.
So taking a page from The Shining, they run into a hedge maze, which this abandoned mansion has that is perfectly manicured and well lit.
Yeah, this whole front lawn, front lawn is a baffling hedge maze.
So they run into it, and Tattoo sits down and releases a bajillion snakes from him.
First he's standing up. So Karigi somehow says, like, Tattoo, the treasure is here. And somehow Tattoo understands him so he's like on the back lawn and Abby and Elektra are on the front lawn. And so Tattoo, like, snakes start, like really long snakes start coming out of him. And it's not like a couple of snakes.
No. It's more than you saw in the Well of Souls.
It's a steady stream of snakes, and after a while, they're just like flowing out of his back. There's like 100 snakes at least, endless numbers of snakes leaving his body somehow, and they don't crawl towards Abby and Elektra, who are running. They fly.
They fly. Yeah.
And then their heads turn like electric red hot. And now they are like flying electric snake tadpoles. Like there's just like these sparks, this whole huge stream of sparks chasing them. But each of the sparks is a snake that's coming out of Ted. And there's like hundreds of them. And so they chase Abby and Elektra like through this hedge maze. And there's just hundreds of them. And they start like, they have a noise. They start like chittering, like, which is like, okay, snakes don't do that either. Like there's so many things that they do that snakes don't do. And so finally they like corner Abby by flying around her like electric snakes.
Yeah, by the way, Elektra is not looking behind her to make sure Abby's with her in the maze. The dark
that's
maze.
amazing. Yeah,
and so they get split up.
Yeah.
So.
Elektra's like, Abby, get behind me. As if like behind her is actually more safe than in front of her. Yeah. And so like Elektra turns a corner and then Abby is cornered by these electric flying snakes that catch her, and then they drop to the ground and they stop being electric and they turn into like just an endless number of snakes again. And Abby like tries to get away. She like uses her little gold chain and she tries to like hit them, but there's like hundreds of them. And so they just like overwhelm her and wrap around her and she screams. And now Abby is covered in snakes that came out of Tattoo's body. Now, Elektra realizes she's gone. She comes down. She gets very still. She does the annoying thing of like, now she knows that like where Tattoo is. So she goes and runs. She finds Tattoo in a different location and he's like shivering and he's on the floor and there's still like dozens of snakes coming out of him. And then there's the thing that I love about the sequence, which is Elektra walks up and she says, "Nice trick, but I've seen it before." It's like, you have? Where have you seen this before? How is that? She's like, that makes no sense to me at all. You've seen a million snakes fly out of a dude and turn into electric flying and they kill people. You've seen that before?
I mean, my takeaway was she had seen him do the tattoo thing before, but my favorite part was he's basically incapacitated when he's doing this. He has
he has all these snakes coming out.
Yeah, so he's
controlling the snakes.
She just walks up to him and just breaks his neck while he's sitting there, which is as heroes do.
Yep. She says, "Nice trick. I've seen it before." She snaps his neck. And then we see Abby and all the snakes explode like one by one, like a string of firecrackers.
Yeah.
It is possibly the stupidest scene that's ever been filmed. And that seriously, if anyone is still listening, and I sincerely doubt that you are, if anyone is still listening, you have to go and watch this scene.
Yeah, I can see how it got storyboarded, and they had this character and they were really excited about this idea. But it also gets down to the thing of like, once you enter magic into something, you kind of have to have rules about, is it taxing? What happens when somebody does this thing? And you find out, okay, he does have to like sit down if he releases a million snakes. But what if he has a tattoo?
Endless numbers of snakes.
Anything apparently he could tattoo on himself and just generate out. Put a Honda Accord on himself and he could drive on out of here.
More ninjas.
More ninjas would have been a great thing to have.
That would work.
But yeah, it's or have something really useful like a big demon warrior or something tattooed.
Electric snake, dude. Electric snakes. That's what you would do.
It's
flying electric snakes.
It's the movie at this point, if it feels like we're dragging here, the movie itself is so plotting as it's doing each of these sequences. We're like, okay, this sequence is over.
I am making the opposite argument, which is everything else about this movie is boring, but you need to see the candle explosion. You need to see the snake death. You need to see her running up the stairs. Like, they're doing the weirdest, nuttiest, like it's I'm not saying the movie is good. The movie is terrible, but it's hilarious to watch these things.
Yeah.
So then typhoid. So the snakes all disappear, and now there's typhoid. So we've killed Tattoo. We killed Stone before.
Karigi somewhere along the way.
Killed no, Karigi's coming up. No, it's coming up. No, he's the big boss. He's the boss battle. So we killed like Stone and the other dude whose name I don't know in the woods, and we just killed Tattoo, and so that's 3 out of 4. And so now there's Typhoid who shows up, and she finds Abby, and Abby tries to swing her chain, and she grabs the chain and poisons the chain. And then Typhoid says, and this is baffling to me.
Yes.
You know, I used to be the treasure, and I don't like being replaced.
It's mind-boggling.
You were?
Apparently the whole thing of the treasures just find some girl whose mother died or something, because
why was there a treasure that is now a little bit older, and now there's another treasure, and they're all supposed to tip the balance in the eternal battle between good and evil?
Mm-hmm.
How is that anything? What are you talking about?
It totally threw me off when she delivered that line. Yeah,
it's insane. So Abby falls down, and now it's not snakes anymore, but Abby's still dying of poison. Elektra's running through the hedge maze, and finally she and Karigi have like the boss battle fight that they've been building up to. You now have enough plot tokens, apparently. They have this stupid sword fight, which goes on for a real long time, and it ends with her like stabbing him in the stomach and throwing him down a well, and he becomes green powder.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that.
Well.
All right. Then comes sequence number 4 out of 4. So this is the one more thing in my pitch for people to watch at least this fight sequence. Karigi goes down the well. He explodes into green powder. Elektra turns and is still for a second. And then she takes her I understand now it's called a sai, her dagger thing, and she throws it. And it goes through like all of these layers of hedge maze. So it's like, and it's like many, many layers of and so she just throws the dagger, and it goes through each of them and just keeps unrolling and like through all these things. And then we see Typhoid like just casually walking along, and the dagger comes through the hedge that's next to her and hits her in the face, and she explodes into smoke. And that's the end of the movie.
Well,
can I get an amen at least? That's amazing.
It gave me a lot of insight into what they thought they were making, and how they were high-fiving each other in the edit bay when they saw that sequence.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, of like, it'd be really cool if she really showed she could like see shit from far away by thinking about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, like the gas thing. It's like we all have experience with a shrub.
I know.
We all know. If you throw
that
anything at a shrub, it's not passing through a shrub.
Cannot cut its way through multiple, like as it goes through.
Yeah, and I want to point out, sai are not an edged weapon. Like full stop. They have a pointy end, and aside from that, they're round. And so it's
so great. And the thing that I love the most is that she's just like kind of walking, like she's not thinking about it. Typhoid isn't scared or anything. She's just like walking through the maze, and then it hits her in the face.
It would have made more sense literally for Elektra to throw it up in the air.
Right. And to come down and hit her.
Come down and hit her on the top of the head or something. So it's not the end of the movie, because now we have to have the inexplicable ending of, okay, so now Abby's fine. I'm just going to blaze through it.
This is bad.
And then she kisses the dad, and he's like, I didn't hate it.
Wait, no. I'm sorry. We gotta do. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go a little bit slower than that.
Okay.
Abby's dead. Abby's been poisoned, and she's dead. And Elektra takes her back to the goddamn bedroom.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And has her out. And like, so now Abby's dead in front of her, and Elektra's sad for a reason, because she like has now identified with Abby. The treasure is dead. And so then she has this flash. So she's still, and she has a flash of what Stick did in order to resurrect her. And somehow she's aware of how Stick resurrected her at the beginning of the movie. So she puts her hands on Abby and tries to bring her back to life, and then it doesn't work, and she cries, and it goes on forever, and then finally Abby actually does come back to life. Duh, gotcha. And somehow we have struck a blow for the side of good.
Yes,
Is that
and now we
what's
have
happening
godlike
right now?
powers over life and death.
Life and death, right? Yeah. It's a good thing she didn't explode into green powder like everybody else did. Yeah, and then she's with Mark, and she kisses Mark because he's the guy in the film. And they do like, I'm sorry. And he says, yeah, I hated that, as if there's like some connection between them, which there's not. And then she goes and talks to Abby. And she's like, so what are you going to do now? And there's this little scene now between Elektra and Abby. And they hug and cry. And Abby says, will I see you again?
This made no sense.
Yes, I know. And Elektra's like, we'll find each other. And kisses her on the head, walks to the door. There's swelling music. Elektra looks back and smiles and then keeps going. It's this big dramatic moment. Now she's walking away from the deserted mansion.
Her mansion at that.
Why are you
her
leaving?
House.
Why are you
no
leaving?
one's chasing her. No
There's
one knows
no
she
reason.
exists. She could. It's like, take a few days. Put your heels up, Elektra. It absolutely makes no sense, except for the same idiots who made this movie, who borrowed from everything else, said the hero always has to
walk away.
We gotta have that searcher's ending.
Yep.
And
why are you leaving?
Yeah,
why
it's
are
like
you leaving?
Everything she knew about her life before. She's clearly not going to be an assassin anymore. So she really needs to take a beat and figure out like who she is, and what better place to do that than a mansion where you own and no one's going to bother you.
With the girl that we have been spending the entire movie positioning as your daughter.
And the hand is still out there at that.
Yeah.
And
they've got people in the boardroom
unaware of the agreement made between Karigi and she. So
yeah, what about the battle between good and evil?
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's been decided, and apparently good and evil's just these two clubs who are apparently like.
Well, and now the treasure's alive, and so that's going to be fine. What are you doing? And then Stick shows up. Just to make it the worst movie ever made, Stick shows up, and Elektra says, like, just don't let her be like me. And he says, your second life isn't like your first, is it? Sometimes it's even better. And she smiles. And that's the actual end of the movie. So there you go.
Yeah. It's
I recommend that people watch this movie.
I am happy I have seen it once. I will never watch this movie again. I can't imagine what would inspire me to ever watch it again.
Let me ask you. I'm going to ask you as a personal favor to me, because I believe in you and your black belt. Please tonight, just go and watch those little bits of the final battle again.
I only
the
have
candles.
Yes,
the candles, jumping up the staircase. What was the third one?
Snakes.
Oh, the snakes.
Yeah. I have like 3 hours left on my rental.
And then
Amazon,
just please go and do this. And then the dagger going through the hedge and hitting Typhoid in the face. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are still here, which is very, very unlikely, I beg of you, go and rent this movie. You don't have to watch the whole thing. Just that 15-minute fight at the end is fucking hilarious. And there we are.
And this was kind of it for Jennifer Garner for like, I mean, I'm sure she did some other.
This was it for all of us.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, like this and Catwoman like told the studios something completely inaccurate about female leads in an action film or a superhero film.
And the producer Avi Arad told investors that we made a mistake and we would never do it again. And then Ike Perlmutter, who was running Marvel, he was the CEO of Marvel, did the same thing. He was like, we thought that was a good idea. Clearly we were wrong. Having a movie about women, we will never do that again. That was 2005.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Wonder Woman in 2017 and then Captain Marvel in 2019. So it's 14 years it took Marvel to make another female-led superhero movie, and everyone talked about how brave they were. In 2019 with Captain Marvel, they were like, wow, it doesn't just have to have dudes. It was amazing to people in 2019 that it was possible to have a successful female lead superhero movie.
And I think it's a huge argument to like the people who are making a lot of this stuff have no idea when they're making garbage. Like they have not a clue. This movie,
the people,
are like, oh,
they're just bad movies.
Yeah, it's Catwoman is hilariously bad. Like this movie is just boring and
slightly less hilariously bad.
Yeah, and Catwoman is hysterically bad, and that
you got to do that.
Everyone who watch these things, who made these things, had no idea like
they
how critics were going to see their films, and what they thought were like, oh yeah, we put makeup in it, so it's got to be for the dames, you know, that's Catwoman. And then this one is like, she's going to be kind of moody, and of course we're going to make her do a mother figure, like you can do, but what you learned from this film is not like the story didn't make sense, the characters were annoying, it didn't, like, there was no way to understand where anybody was, the villains are stupid, no one's motivation, and you do just completely insane, ridiculous stuff, but not enough to make it like the Fast and the Furious, where they're like Fast and Furious. As I haven't watched any, but I've never seen a Fast and. My understanding of the Fast and Furious movies is from afar is that like they do stuff that breaks physics, but they do it on purpose, and it's hilarious. Is my understanding. Yeah, and that's fine, and like and people really like those, and that's cool, and I just don't. It's like they do stuff that's that stupid, but I think they actually mean it serious. Like they actually think that it's cool. They think that the linens flying around the room is cool, and the typhoid kiss is cool. Like they think things that are cool that are very much not cool. Yeah, my guess is they tried to borrow stuff from movies I haven't seen, and they just did it all badly. Making Stick a pool hustler for one sequence and one sequence only. Yeah. So bizarre. So they did a very bizarre thing. Anyway, this has been like a 3-hour podcast, so I'm going to try and wrap it up now. But go ahead, try it out. Anyway. Hey, if you want more of my my insane drunken ramblings about superhero movies, come check out Superhero Every Day. I'm sorry, Superheroes. I should tell people the right thing. Superheroeveryday.com. And I am on Twitter and Facebook. And we will be back soon. And I'm glad we have not yet committed to a movie yet, but Danny and I will figure something else out. The Inhumans. We're going to talk about The Inhumans. I still want to get to Superman 4. We're doing Superman 4. Inhumans. No, we're doing that. Did you just say we'll do The Inhumans? We will do the pilot, or maybe the first. So exciting! This is the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'll tell you why. Thank you, Elektra. Thank you, Elektra. The reason I'm saying that is because I recently, in my Smallville rewatch, realized that the poor girl who plays Medusa is also in Smallville as Tana. Thank you, Elektra. So. Elektra's my favorite now. Okay, so wait. So at the end, I do like to say, like, of these 6 movies, and I don't remember my order from the first time, but of these 6 movies, where are they in order? I'm saying New Mutants first. Because as bad no, like as the best to worst. I was actually Fantastic Four 2005, which is an actual okay movie. Okay. I would put the New Mutants under that, which is a terrible movie, but at least like has some appealing humans in it. Okay. And then there's like Ghost Rider and Daredevil. Yeah, I'd probably put Ghost Rider above Daredevil because I think Ghost Rider's got some stuff going on in it. Kind of the same. Yeah. And then for me, Fantastic Four 2015 is the absolute worst, although you have questioned that. You know, in comparison, this movie commits the sin of being tedious and boring while you're watching it. So I put it just above that movie, which just felt like it completely. Wait, Elektra, you put Elektra just above 2015? Yeah, 2015 is still the worst. Okay. And then Elektra is just and then like Daredevil,
Yeah,
Ghost Rider, New Mutants, and then
Yeah.
Fantastic Four.
I would agree with you, except for one thing,
What?
which is that Elektra made you agree to do the Inhumans, and so therefore it's my favorite of all of them.
Yeah, we'll be back soon.
For more
and-
superhero fun, check out
Yeah.
superheroeseveryday.com, and we will be back. I'm not going to say it's the next thing we do, but the Inhumans, it's happening, people. It's happening.
You can really thank Doctor Strange for that.
I'm
but
so
yes.
excited. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Danny.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.
And I breathe. No.
That about wraps it up for this edition of The Signal Watch, a production of the League of Melbotus. Thanks for sticking with us. If you enjoyed the podcast, we invite you to drop on by the Signal Watch blog, where you'll find write-ups of a wide variety of movies and more. We'd love to hear from you, so find us online and let us know what you think. Whether you prefer email, blog comments, or social media, we'll be happy to hear from you. We'll be back soon with more exceedingly high-quality content. So, until next time, God damn it, babies, you've got to be kind.